Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Monday after WrestleMania 38. It is me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right and to have a very fun, very loose episode of the Wrestling Inc. Daily here today. It's our good friend. No, it's not the Wiseman, Paul Heyman. It's Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
And to thank you. And I think I would have added a nice element. Let's say that, Brock Lesnar needed somebody in his corner. I think I could have been the one behind the one in the 21-1.
Oh, wow. Oh, I like that. That's more math than a Steiner promo right there.
He's a Hall of Famer, so, what can I say?
I guess that's a Hall of Fame level promo then you just cut there. I love it. Well, hey, we got a lot to get to here today. We're going to do a largely normal show, just to be completely transparent. As I told Michael before we started recording, I have been in my apartment here back in Chicago for all of 10 minutes. I am running straight from the airport. I'm going to be spending more time with you all and Michael than I will my fiance and my dog, who are waiting patiently in the other room for me to finish doing this show. But you all, this is the most important thing. I have been looking forward to doing this show all week because everything is fresh up top. You can ask me about anything you want. Anybody can ask me anything they want about this past weekend. I saw a lot of things. I did not see everything because there is like a million things, but I saw a lot. I saw pretty much the most important stuff. I'll put it that way. No knock to New Japan or anything or like that I didn't go see. Saw most things. So, Michael, if you've got questions, you're welcome to ask me at any point. If you're in the chat room here today, wherever you're at, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or wherever it may be, jump in. We are going to be talking about different things that happened over the past 4 or 5 days down in Dallas. I didn't have time to do like the news, so it's just like topics we're going to be talking about tomorrow. I'll have better cited sources. We're just going to be kind of having a more broad discussion about a lot of the stuff that happened in Dallas here. So jump in the chat room. You can be like our good friend James Jones here. Let's go, Nick. Headlock heel. What's up, everybody? He also says Fear Veer tonight. It's going to be a big. You excited? Big Veer night.
I'm excited. Veer, finally. I thought he was going to be the mystery opponent, Well, I love this too. We got new little slide outs here. I love the little design of the new comment section. Nick, I've done this before in the past. I know you've done it plenty of times in the past, but for people who have never done a Mania weekend, and granted, the way that you did it,
sure,
maybe not the same as the way a typical fan would do it, but still, you ingested a ton of wrestling over the course of about 72 hours.
No, more than that, way more than 72 hours. It was 96
hours?
100 plus hours of wrestling, I think is what it was.
How was the experience this weekend in Dallas? Just give people kind of a quick lowdown of what it's like to go to a WrestleMania weekend if they've never done it before.
Great question, Michael. I've been fortunate to be going to every WrestleMania since WrestleMania 32 in some capacity. My access and responsibilities have slowly kind of increased to where they were this past weekend. If you ever have the chance to go to WrestleMania, get in on like a Wednesday, so you can start in earnest, really kind of grinding from Thursday to Sunday, just hitting as much stuff as you can. If you're a wrestling fan, you got to do it at least once in your life. I mean, there's so much stuff now to take in. GCW is the collective. I got to spend a lot of time there. Big underground hippie feel-good fest. Mania is always fun. I got to jump over by MLW land for a while. They were doing great. They seem to be having a lot of fun. Never made it over to WrestleCon. Heard a lot of very positive things about what it was like over there. ROH we'll talk about here in a little bit. I mean, there's something for everybody. And I think the thing that about this year's WrestleMania that was maybe a little bit different than past WrestleManias is, and no knock on previous Manias and stuff like that, but the positive energy around this year's Mania was like really palpable. And I don't know if it's just because like, the past couple of years, obviously with the pandemic and everything, people haven't been able to really kind of be around everybody and things like that. This was kind of the first time for a lot of people to get back together and share some space and have some fun. There was just a real no drama. The city of Dallas, I love you. Your downtown is a little terrifying. The only drama I think that anybody had this weekend was more induced by the scary environment, the Mad Maxian style hellscape that is downtown Dallas, in my opinion. But outside of that, very, very positive. I loved all the fans. We did the tailgate party on Saturday and Sunday. I was there Sunday before Mania. Where's my tailgate comment here? From Samantha. Happy Monday after Mania. P.S. Nice flossing, Nick. Yeah, Issa was there with me at the tailgate party. There was music playing. I decided to dance, and so I flossed. I did the floss. She made a video of it, put it on her Instagram stories. So long story short, look, it was very good, Michael. I am mentally and physically fried. I will be watching Raw in the morning. I'm going to go watch Pig Royalty and 90 Day Fiance with Liz tonight and eat some salsa chicken and just numb my mind for a second. But it was so fulfilling. It was so fun. I was thrilled to get access to some of the stuff we're going to talk about here on the show. But it was great, man. How was it for you, by the way? Like, I'm giving you the on the ground perspective. How was it just like taking in Mania from TV and everything like that? How was it?
It was weird for me because, of course, last year was the pandemic one, which was a little bit weird. 2 years ago was the initial pandemic one. So the last Mania I went to personally was the one New York a couple of years ago, main event with the triple threat match, Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. So this year not going, but it still being a full WrestleMania experience, I was prepared to do something different, which was just watch all of the wrestling on Fight or wherever it was. And I have to say, I felt like I watched a ton of wrestling. Now, the difference is when you go to a WrestleMania weekend, you go through kind of this delirium, this haze, this time does not exist anymore. And especially if you're doing some coverage, you're showing up trying to get some scrum interviews here, or they're doing something at Access today at this time. And you kind of get all these events you're just going to, but you don't really know what time you show up to the arena to do WrestleMania. And it's like 2 hours early. And there's just like time doesn't exist in whatever host city WrestleMania is in, if you're there for WrestleMania.
Right.
Time does exist for me. And I did have to watch, I turned it on at 6. The 2 hour pre-show was a complete waste of my time.
Why would you watch it? Nothing happened. Nothing happened during the pre-show either night.
I waited on Sunday. I learned my lesson and did not watch the pre-show. But on Saturday, you're just like, maybe we're going to get a pre-show match or whatever else. So what I found myself doing this weekend with the way that the shows kind of played out was I had like these weird buckets of time in between shows. I love the experience watching from home this year. Got to watch it with my wife, got to watch it with my dog, text my friends, but I had like hour or two gaps in between shows. And I'm like, I guess I'll watch an old WrestleMania match right now because I'm not going to do anything else productive with this time. Sure. But I have to say it was still really cool. And I thought it was just an awesome, I probably totaled somewhere between 60 and 20 hours of pro wrestling watching this weekend. Yeah. And it was from like 5:00 Friday till today. It was incredible. And I think all parties involved, you could just tell there was a positive energy, and all parties involved, from WWE to Ring of Honor and everybody in between, just seemed to be putting on incredible experiences for fans. So even if you don't love WWE, I agree with you. You got to go. And Nick, next year, already making my plans to be back there in LA. So I will see you there for sure.
Well, rock and roll. I hope next year's going to be a lot of fun in LA, and I'm looking forward to it. So here, real quick, we'll get back on the tracks. We're going to talk all things Mania here, and again this weekend in the news block. But just to let you know, later on in the show, after the news block, I was privileged to get a lot of great interview and scrum content over the past 100 or plus hours or whatever it was. We're going to roll it all out here over the coming weeks. I'm not trying to prioritize anybody or pick favorites, but like I was invited to the Cody Rhodes scrum on Sunday night or Sunday morning. I did not find out that this scrum was even happening until Saturday at 10. No, it was later than that. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was leaving the WrestleMania press box, and then the PR rep grabbed me and goes, "We're having a little private scrum with Cody Rhodes in the morning. Can you be at this hotel at 10 o'clock? And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll be there. So sure, no problem. And I did get to ask a question. The full video and audio from the scrum is already over on YouTube, and we're going to play the full audio here after the news block. It's almost an hour long, but you'll get it all. I'm so proud of the video quality, the audio quality, and the quality of the question I get to ask. I asked the last question in the scrum, and Cody actually fights to have me ask the last question, and it's a great little back and forth, and I want to thank Cody and WWE for all of that. So anyway, Cody will be here later on. We're going to talk a lot about Cody here, and then at the end of the show, like we always do, we'll dive into the mailbag. We're going to look at this year's WrestleMania and what you all thought was the match that stole all of Mania across 2 nights. This was a very divisive poll. We'll get into why when we get to it. I did not mean for it to become so divisive, but hey, here we are. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. News you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. WrestleMania 38, 2 nights. I'll start by saying I thought night 1 was a better show than night 2. That seems to be the general consensus across everybody I've spoken with. First of all, do you think that night 1 really did overshadow night 2, like so many of the people I'm hearing from right now?
Night 1 was fantastic. And I left that feeling more excited about WrestleMania than I had been in the entire build up to it. And I thought to myself going into night 1, like I was telling my wife which matches, because she keeps up casually with pro wrestling fans. So it's always kind of fun to bounce things off of her, get her feel for things. And I was telling her which matches were on night 1. I'm like, no, Becky Bianca's on night 2, I think, because what else is going to be on night 2? It felt like going into it, they were stacking night 1 with all of like the premier stuff other than Brock and Reigns, and saving some of the more kind of pop culture-y, sports center-y stuff, news grabbing stuff for night 2. But I think that played out that exact way. Night 1 was the night to watch, and it delivered for pro wrestling fans. If you're an old school fan, if you're a new school fan, great matches. And honestly, I would say this, Nick, we'll get to the poll here in a little bit, but the best 1 hour of in-ring storytelling, in-ring athleticism, that WWE has had in years and years and years. That middle 1 hour of night 1, the Becky Bianca match, and then of course the Cody Rhodes Seth Rollins match back to back. That 1 hour is just one of the best hours of pro wrestling that I have seen in just for freaking ever.
Well, here's the funny thing about that, Michael, and I don't disagree with you. So when I got to the press box at WWE, first of all, if you're wondering what's the press box like at WrestleMania, it's like a normal press box. You get a seat, you sit there, you look down, you watch it. There's catering. I ate about 1 million chicken tenders for free, and I had a bunch of 7-Up. And then day 2, I was drinking chocolate mochas that they were giving me for free. That kept me up and going. But on night 1, it's the Steve Austin Beer Bash show, right?
Sure.
And they don't serve alcohol in the press box, all right? And so I had to go over to the press box security people and say, can I leave to go down and get a beer? It's not up here. They said, yes, that's fine. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'd like to be drinking.
That's a good strategy. Just for the record, never thought about that. So kudos to you for being a rule, not a rule breaker, but a new defining path in pro wrestling journalism.
The story is not done here, Michael. So then I said, this is the Beer Bash night. I'd like to have a beer when I watch Steve Austin. Can I go down, get a beer, and then bring it back up to the press box, right? The security guy didn't know the answer to that. He had to call somebody and say, I have a journalist here who wants to know if they could go get a beer and bring it back to the box. And then I was abruptly told, no, you cannot do that. But just so everyone knows, I'm the delinquent journalist where the security people had to call to be like, hey, this guy wants to drink on the job. And then they told me no. I say that to say this. So right before the Becky Bianca match, I was like, I'm going to go down. I want to watch this match with a beer in my hand. So I go down, I get a beer. I wind up like standing in the middle, straight on, looking at the ring and the entrance ramp, unobstructed view, and with surrounded by the fans and stuff. It was a banger match, right? And I'm halfway through my beer, and then I hear Seth's music on. I'm going to stick around. Dude, that was the only hour. Those are the only 2 matches I watched amongst the fans with a beer in my hand, was Bianca Becky and then Cody Seth right after it. And it was one of the best parts. I mean, I love being in the press box, everything, and being surrounded by fellow press and having that access and getting asked to do things, all that. It's wonderful. But for that hour, I got to be down with the fans. I felt like a tiny speck of dust in this 80,000 person mob. And I completely agree with you. There was only one other thing that grabbed me the way that hour did, which we'll get to here in a little while. But it is really hard to say that was not a very powerful hour. And the women's match, which I think we'll talk more about in the mailbag. That's where it got divisive. But the Cody debut was interesting. And I got a little heat on Twitter because I tweeted out that my favorite part of the Cody debut was I was down with the fans and everybody's like, who do you think the mystery opponent is? And I said, it's going to be Cody. And these people, these casual fans got like angry. They were all like, no, it's going to be Undertaker. Like everybody thought it was going to be Undertaker, right? And I guess because I didn't watch the Hall of Fame because I had to go cover, what was it? Oh, it was at ROH. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to watch the Undertaker's Hall of Fame speech, but I guess he like says a never say never thing at the end of the speech. And everybody was like, that's what this is. And it's crazy to me that I was like, wow, what a pocket of people. They all thought it was the Undertaker. If you go back and you watch the live video that I have of Cody's entrance over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel, before Cody comes out, everybody has their camera phone lights on and they're holding them up. Like a lot of people.
Yep.
And I think most of the people in that building before Cody came out genuinely thought it was going to be the Undertaker. And that's crazy to me considering how fervent everybody was and kind of in the know about what was going on with Cody. The vast majority of casual fans were in that building last night until Cody came out, thought it was going to be the Undertaker. I don't know what to make of that, but I just want to make that very, very clear.
Well, this is what we've been talking about for weeks here, which was, if you remember, my argument has been for a long time, they need to actually, I thought, wrong here, right? But I thought you need to advertise Cody Rhodes at some point for this show if you want to draw in the fan buzz for him, because we're in this every day. We're in the rumors. Casual fans are not that deep into it. They're catching their highlights, whatever else, right? And they did the surprise. They got the giant pop. Casual fans did not expect Cody Rhodes.
No.
There was a Cody chant that happened right beforehand, but it was a very subtle one that you can kind of hear on TV.
Right.
But casual fans were not expecting it. And I think, and I don't remember if it was you who said this or if it was Brian, somebody told me this. They were saying they didn't want to announce Cody Rhodes ahead of time because Vince McMahon, WWE, they were trying to get that Hardy Brothers pop from a few years ago in Orlando when the Hardy Boys returned in that big surprise. And I believe it. I think we got pretty damn close to that kind of pop, although I think Austin later in the night topped it. So,
well, I think the Hardys is a great example, but I think they were doing the CM Punk, worst kept secret in wrestling thing. I think they were just copying what AEW did with Punk, where it was like everybody knew, right, that it was going to be Punk, but alternately this played out differently because again, like when I was in the United Center, in Chicago when Punk came out, everybody knew it was going to be Punk. In AT&T Stadium, that was not the case. Like again, I would say it was like, I would go as far as to say 80-20 thought it was Undertaker over Cody Rhodes in that building. And just go watch the video I posted. You can see how many people have their lights out on their phone, and you only do that for Undertaker and Bray Wyatt. You're not putting your camera flash on to take a picture of Cody Rhodes. You're doing it to be part of the graveyard aesthetic of the Undertaker. I know we don't have a ton of time here today and I'm rambling a little bit, but it's going to be interesting here because since most people really thought it was going to be Taker and weren't expecting Cody, and I was literally after Cody came out, like educating some of the fans around me about who Cody was. Sure. Like there were like dads with their kids that were like, was he with AEW? And I was like, he was one of the founders of AEW. That's why this is such a big deal. And he's like, oh, I love Dusty. And it's like these disparate, it's like you're talking casual. You're not having the same conversation that we're having here right now. And so it's going to be a fresh start in a lot of ways for Cody. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, it is. But also it's weird because of, and I know we have a few more things we want to get to before the time's out here. I'll kind of leave it at this with my side on this. Match was phenomenal. But you look at the presentation on Saturday night, him coming up, the Andre shot of him rising, the music coming. He brought his Nightmare music with him. They even did there's more than one royal family in pro wrestling tagline to kick that off, which I was a little bit surprised by because that was always in my mind a shot at WWE.
It is.
The presentation, they gave them time. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes had plenty of time to wrestle. They wrestled an AEW style match down the stretch with all the near falls and the kickouts and everything else. It felt like they believed in Cody Rhodes and that they were doubling down on him. And then they do this thing on Sunday, the media scrum, which is a very AEW style thing to do.
It was me and Denise Salcedo. And I think that she was really the only one that I recognized as another AEW media scrum regular.
Sure.
But like, I think one of the reasons Cody kind of fought to give me the last question was because it's not an authentic Cody Rhodes AEW style media scrum unless Nick Hausman asked some really difficult question to try to get you in trouble. And I didn't try to get Cody in trouble with the question, but I certainly wanted to go another direction. Everybody was asking about Vince and the deal of the debut. I wanted to ask him about developmental in the Nightmare Factory. So you'll hear about that later on in the show.
But you look at this show now and the whole weekend here, right? the rumors came true, other than maybe that stray Shawn Michaels rumor that happened back in January. That was kind of a weird one anyway. But
Sure.
Cody Rhodes coming to WWE, debuting, wrestling at WrestleMania came true. Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling a match, which I thought they were backing off of 2 weeks ago, happened. Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee at WrestleMania happened. Like all of those crazy rumors that we thought, man, that was an extreme version they're going to back off of. They did it all this weekend, man. And honestly, the Stone Cold stuff Saturday night could not have been a better cap to that first night. It played so well on TV, and it was just an incredible moment for fans of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So let's pivot to that here real quick. And I will say, by the way, I'm going to just acknowledge, and we're going to move right on to the Steve stuff, but Doom Tribe T saying Cody, who's done a lot over the 6 years, isn't as big as Punk, and James Joyce saying here, Punk not bringing in more to many more viewers than AEW had before. I am very interested to see what the bump is for Raw tonight. Cody has been hammering the tease. I'm going to talk on Raw. I'm going to tell you I'm here. What is my intentions? I'm going to tell you tonight on Raw. So we will see what the Cody Rhodes bump looks like tonight, and I'll be interested to see what that number is. All right, on to Steve Austin here. Dude, the place was ape shit. Like, I mean, we were all sitting there. I didn't know Steve was going to have the match with KO. I think we were all very surprised by that. But I feel like I should have smartened myself up sooner because the end of that Rousey-Charlotte match was awful. By the way, my biggest knock on WrestleMania this year was all the finishes were flat. There was very few good finishes at WrestleMania 38 this year. I thought many of the matches, even the matches that were good matches, ended weird and flat. And Charlotte, Ronda was absolutely that way. Yep. The audience was just like, what? This, okay, I guess.
AJ Styles, Edge was definitely that way. Yeah. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, on and on and on, right? I mean, dude, it's just like there were a lot of flat finishes at this year's WrestleMania. This Steve Austin moment. So the reason I say it is because I was like, if Ronda and Charlotte was the last match of this show and closing it, how that is disrespectful to that booking as the main event of your show. Now, thank God, and again, that's why I feel like I should have known something was coming because of course they're not going to end it on that screwy, awful way. So we got the KO Steve Austin match, way over delivered, 20 minutes. I felt like a 12-year-old child. What's to dislike? I mean, it was a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And they tried to recreate the magic on night 2 with McAfee and Austin Theory and Vince McMahon. And it was not the same, man. It was funky monkey booking. I don't know that anything got bigger than the Steve Austin KO match. I mean, it was like a fever dream. It's like it feels like it didn't even happen. You know,
well, and I had multiple thoughts about it. Number one, it was incredible. Like the way they played up to that moment with the, hey, you want to wrestle a match, and that tease and that pause. It was so well done by two experts in the ring, one legend, one modern day main eventer. It was just really surreal. But you look at Austin and what happened with this match. They brawled through the crowd, up the ramp. And I thought to myself, one of those rumors was that Austin didn't like the way he looked, which is why he wasn't going to wrestle another match, blah, blah, blah. Austin, and I don't know how his age compares to Bill Goldberg, but Austin's style, and I don't know what his health condition is. I thought to myself after this, that was a great way to go out, Steve, and here's a beer for you. But his style of wrestling holds up so much better than somebody like Bill Goldberg, who is a strongman style. Is he going to come back for the next Saudi show? Could we have one or two more dream matches left with this man?
I think we do.
Because it looked good. It looked damn good.
I think you do, man. I mean, it was interesting to watch Steve in the first night with that match because the first 5 minutes he was moving a little stiff, you know, if I'm just being frank, and I was like, okay, well, we'll see where this goes. But at some point, I don't know if it was when he got thrown into the barricade or when he jumped over the barricade to the outside to start brawling, but that adrenaline kicked in and he changed, and the way he was moving changed, and the way he was acting changed, and you started to see that flicker of Steve Austin from before. And by the time that man is driving KO up the entrance ramp on an ATV, you're there, man, you know? So I thought it was just like really well done. The night 2 thing, like I think going back to Vince and Steve is fine, but the way they got there by having the McAfee Theory match and having McAfee beat Theory, a game, young, elite blue chip athlete, and then jobbing and bumping and looking like an idiot to 76-year-old Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who then pinned him clean largely after a nut shot from Austin Theory, I thought was weird and wrong. And then out comes Steve Austin, and you got to the part that people liked, even the gifable Vince McMahon legs collapsing stunner. I don't care, whatever. It's Steve Austin stunning Vince. You could get to that moment. I just hated how they got there for night 2. I thought it was really sloppy, bad booking.
McAfee was over like Rover, and that's the one thing he had going for him was that crowd was behind him, it seemed like. And he did well. Here's what I'll say. We had Logan Paul on night 1, McAfee on night 2, Knoxville on night 2, which was a weirder match. But McAfee and Logan Paul looked really comfortable in the ring to be guys. And I know McAfee's wrestled some in the past. These two guys are bringing in celebrities. They have raised the bar in recent years. I go back to Bad Bunny last year.
Yeah.
They're not Seth Rollins, but they're looking damn good and they hold their own out there well enough. But the booking of that segment was so strange from top to bottom. And then Vince McMahon having to show, and God bless the man, he is in fantastic shape to be a 76-year-old man. I am jealous of his arms, right? But it felt like he was out there to put himself over at that point, and he had to shred his stuff and all those things. All I can imagine, and then I had Bruce Pritchard and his podcast in my head and how he used to always talk about the thing that the fans remember is what happens at the end of a segment. And I guess that's what they were going with. Austin coming out and stunning everybody was what they wanted to build with. So they were trying to put heat on McMahon in the moment so that when that stunner happened, it would get them a louder pop. But I think the problem was McMahon's stunner was weak. McAfee's stunner, when he took it in that fountain of beer that he spewed off as he stuck back, was amazing, and that was the real good stunner to me. So
I even like the Austin Theory 3 Scott Hall flips.
Yes,
I thought I was a fan of the Austin Theory thing. And by the way, I'll skip to it right now because you brought up Logan Paul and Johnny Knoxville. This was the best outing ever for celebrities at WrestleMania. Yes. I mean, across the board, if you're going to do celebrity integration, they hit it out of the park this year. McAfee worked. Logan Paul, I'm not a Logan Paul person. I just don't get it. Sure. But I'll say this. I get him as a heel pro wrestler now. That guy was built to be a heel pro wrestler. He was awesome in that match. I loved the heel turn from The Miz. Definitely setting up a backlash match between Logan Paul and The Miz. Great bit of business done there. And then look, Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. And I know it is not everybody's cup of tea. I know it is not Raj's cup of tea. I know it is not Dave Meltzer's cup of tea. I know it is not David Bixenspan's cup of tea. I don't care. That was my favorite match of the entire weekend. And that is better than FTR Briscoes. That is better than Moxley, Biff Busick, Bloodsport. That is better than Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And the reason I loved it, and I know it's not for everybody, but as somebody who likes Jackass, and they built a match that was catered to Jackass fans, it had months worth of build that started at the Royal Rumble. It was a shit ton of fun. And then when you got to the actual match, it's over the top. It's ridiculous, right? You're seeing all your favorite characters. The Wee Man, Andre the Giant flip spot is maybe as giftable, if not more giftable than Pat McAfee drinking the beer. Tough to say.
That Wee Man body slam was an incredible, he did it well too. He did it really well. He tucked the head. It was anyway.
I popped out of my seat in the press box. And it was the only time that happened the entire weekend for that Wee Man slam. Pontius, Party Boy, grinding on Sami Zayn, big pop. And then we get to the finish, the mousetrap finish. Did it work perfectly? No. Was it a little stupid? Absolutely. But as I went back to earlier, the matches for WrestleMania were all so flat. And in a match that is structured around what crazy thing is going to happen next in this Jackass match, how do you build to something that is going to satisfy that giant mousetrap that malfunctions and pins Sami Zayn to the mat? I'm sorry, but that was the best finish of any match at WrestleMania because it made sense in the context of the story they were trying to tell. It was a great match. More Johnny Knoxville, more Jackass. These two things need to be around a lot more often.
I mean, I don't know. Cody Rhodes paid tribute to his late father at the conclusion of his match and tried to cement the Rhodes legacy with a world title win in the near future. But the mousetrap gets it, Nick. No, this is the classic. this is the problem with the booking this weekend. Night 1 was for people that are fans and inside of pro wrestling. Night 2 was for a broader audience. And that's not a bad thing. Jeff Jarrett talks about this on his podcast too, right? You book shows for all people, not just for us. AEW gets a little bit more specific to hardcore pro wrestling fans, but in general, and WWE plays by these rules a lot, you book a variety of things to reach all people. I think the way they stack the two cards hurt night 2 because all the stuff for people like me were more on night 1. But what I'll say is, a zany match like this, it's not much different than the hardcore matches of yesteryear that WWE used to do on shows like this. And people trying to say otherwise, that this match was worse than some of those 24/7 hardcore title matches from like WrestleMania 18 or whatever, they're just fooling themselves. Those matches were goofy. It's the home good housekeeping match that Jeff Jarrett did with China. Like, yeah, it's not that bad.
We got the Al Snow 1997 bowling ball spot in this match.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you nailed it, man. They did an homage, and they took what fans in wrestling can expect, and they sprinkled Jackass on it in a completely appropriate way. Sami Zayn, home run, pay him whatever you. This was for me, my WrestleMania match. All right, I'm gonna hop off that because we're short on time. But lastly, here on Mania stuff, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. We talked about how flat it was. Holy hell, people are crap, dude. This is proof to me that these two, no matter how you want to package it, reframe it, we need to get on. We need to move on. This feud, as compelling as it has maybe been at points to get to the match, has never, ever delivered in a satisfying way for fans. Roman's great. Brock's great. We got to get them apart. I am so over this. This did not work. I was upset with how WrestleMania ended.
Well, and this is the problem with the way Vince McMahon booked shows, which is he booked night 2 to be all about the main event. Night 1 was about everything else. Night 2 was about, we got the unification, biggest WrestleMania match of all time. If that doesn't deliver, and that's your big selling point for one night of WrestleMania, it hurts the show. I think AJ Styles and Edge was the other big one for that night. It was flat. Edge got lots of chances to be emotive, but that was flat as well. But I think that main event left the fans with a much lower feeling than they had on Saturday night. It looked like Roman maybe hurt himself.
Yeah, I see Lance Davis Jr. here asking if Roman's injured. It looks like he had a lump on his tricep. I have been hearing a lot about that. I've been flying all day, so I haven't had a chance to see what the Observer and Fightful and everybody's saying, but it did look like something happened in order to lead to a rush finish. And the big tell for me is when Roman went to lift the 2 championships. Left arm went up, or right arm went up real quick. Left arm was like, I gotta fight to get that title over my head. So it definitely looked like he was struggling there.
Yeah. We'll see. The other big injury was Rick Booge, which is unfortunate as well. But
oh my God, dude.
Night 2, flatter than the first night. Didn't pan out. And I agree with you. Let's pivot, right? We got Cody Rhodes in the wings. Who's going to conquer Roman Reigns? Hey, that's the fun of coming out of Mania. We get to find all that out in the coming weeks, hopefully.
Well, real quick, I haven't watched TakeOver yet. Another thing I'm going to be watching tomorrow, but a couple things I do know that happened I wanted to real quickly address as we're dissecting the big events of it. First of all, there was a Triple H Ciampa moment there after Tony D'Angelo, I believe, beat Ciampa. Again, you've seen it, Michael. Tell me when I'm wrong. But also, there was Braun Breaker losing to Dolph Ziggler with some shenanigans. If you're listening last week, this is what I said was going to happen. He lost the belt in a triple threat. He didn't get pinned. Now you're doing the singles match. You could do the Bobby Roode screws him over spot. It's original. We hadn't seen it yet. And then Dolph can stay down at NXT. The next in line can work with somebody who, is going to teach them how to wrestle a main roster style, which is what Dolph Ziggler does pretty much better than anybody outside of maybe Randy Orton, who had his own opinions about NXT over the weekend. And I think that Braun will be on Raw tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if he confronts Roman Reigns or something like that on Raw tonight.
It felt like they're moving Braun on to the next big thing. I think TakeOver was I think it was a great show, but it's still not classic TakeOver era. But Dolph Ziggler getting to work down there is, I think, just the right call right now, and is adding a little bit more credence to what this show is. The Ciampa thing was a cool moment. The network is weird right now on Peacock because they have to show commercials for people who aren't paying the $10 a month and only pay the $5. So that segment happened during one of the commercial breaks. But I think it's hurting their show. It's hurting WWE shows right now to have these long video packages in between everything, because if you're not paying the $10, you get the commercials instead, and we got to have it in there. So I hope they work out something in there for stuff like that. Don't think they will. But yeah, TakeOver was fine. Moment was cool. Triple H, not surprisingly.
Open night 2, putting his boots in the ring. Thanked everybody. very emotional weekend for Triple H, especially with the team there. Nobody knew he was going to be there. Fightful broke the story that he, had a great meeting with Talent. I guess Talent's getting a good deal on third-party stuff going forward, which is something we could talk more about tomorrow when I can look more into the nitty-gritty about it. But, yeah, man, real emotional weekend for Triple H. Really happy to see he got his flowers here over the weekend. But lastly here, before we get to the Cody Rhodes media scrum, and then we'll real briefly dive into the mailbag at the end, yeah, let's talk about Supercard. I pissed off a lot of people in the chat room saying that Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville was better than FTR Briscoes. Look, FTR Briscoes, I mean, look, I got to be there live with, they said it was 2,000. I think it was closer to 1,200 in the building. But anyway, I got to watch it live. I'm sure we'll see this match again, but I got to see it for the first time, and it was very, very special. Samoa Joe, his debut at the end of the show, was very, very special. He is now with Ring of Honor and AEW. I guess. I don't know. The show. Have you seen Supercard? Did you see the show?
I watched it. I watched it live. Yeah.
I liked the show, and I told Tony as much. It did feel like a mixed bag, where some of the stuff really felt important, other stuff kind of felt like transitional. What did you think of Supercard?
I thought it was a good show, but it just felt like it was kind of stuck in between. Also, I think part of that's because we don't have a direction for Ring of Honor. It became clear when I realized Samoa Joe's going to be on AEW this week, and you kind of start seeing how they're going to use it. But are these talents going to come over to AEW Dark or Elevation? It's just a weird place to be, and I think that hurts it just a little bit.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I was actually kind of surprised with the direction Tony chose to go. We have the media scrum video up from ad-free shows that I did on Saturday afternoon. One of the people I got to talk to there was Jeff Jarrett, and I asked Jeff what his advice to Tony Khan was as he was going to become a promoter for two companies, and he said that the big thing to do is to make sure that these two brands feel very different and unique. If ROH is AEW light, it's not going to feel special, and it's not going to connect with the fans. And my big takeaway from Ring of Honor was it felt like AEW light. It felt like, the Ring of Honor guys outside of Gresham all had their titles taken from them. FTR, AEW team, they took the ROH titles. Wheeler Yuta, he took the Pure Championship, right? Mercedes Martinez, she's got the Women's Championship now. Suzuki, not an AEW guy, but AEW New Japan guy.
Yeah.
He took the TV title. The only Ring of Honor talent that got to keep their title was Jonathan Gresham. And then you throw Samoa Joe into the Ring of Honor mix, and it's like, well, hell yeah, now we're cooking with some spice. You got Samoa Joe in the mix, and as soon as he's there and you're excited to see him in ROH, the debut graphic is that he's in AEW. So it was like, well, I'm glad you all like to see him in Ring of Honor, but just so you remember, AEW is the more important product here. He's not an ROH superstar, and I am with you. I think it was a good show, but a murky start in regards to the direction of Ring of Honor.
Well, and then the Bucks showing up to challenge the Briscoes at the end of that felt a little bit too we want to be involved in this.
Wait. Now, here's the thing about that. I hate to cut you off, but the Bucks attacked the Briscoes, and it looks like the Briscoes might be Impact bound. I think that was a Fightful report. So, okay. And then FTR is like, oh, you want a piece of us? We'll see you Wednesday on Dynamite. And you would think that they're going to defend the Ring of Honor tag titles on Dynamite this Wednesday, but you would be wrong. They are going to defend the AAA titles on Wednesday's Dynamite, a match that was set up at a Ring of Honor show. Follow the ball under the cups, kids, because it's a real hard one to track at the moment. There was a lot of good on that show, but man, I'm with you, dude. There was a lot of head scratching too, as far as where are we going with this thing? I still don't know.
Yeah, I think the best example, NXT, back when it was NXT Gold, yes, it was a developmental territory as well, but they brought in guys like Samoa Joe, guys like Bobby Roode to go in there and kind of lead the charge for NXT, and NXT still felt like it was in its own special bubble. I wish Ring of Honor was more like that, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Bigger news here for me is Samoa Joe coming over, whether it's Ring of Honor, whether it's AEW, he's a big get for Tony Khan. And I'm so excited. Daniel Bryan's there, CM Punk's there, dream matches can happen, baby. And I'm pumped for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining me at the Top Show Talk, all the news today. Thank you to Cody Rhodes and WWE for that scrum we got to do on Sunday morning, mere hours after Cody had returned to WWE. Absolute banger. I hope you all listen to it, or if you are watching us live right now, as soon as we're done here, jump over to the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. You can watch all 52 minutes of the Cody Rhodes scrum right now in person. He covers a lot of ground about his contract, his mindset, and what I get him with at the end, as you just heard, was asking him about the Nightmare Factory and if he has interest in developmental. I don't know if you saw the quotes, but the Nightmare Factory will stay open. And he has no interest in working with WWE's developmental system. I believe the exact quote was, if I never step foot in a performance center, I'll be okay with that. He noted his dad's office is down there. His dad's boots are down there. It's really emotional for him. His dad also told him when he left OVW to never go back there. And he just didn't seem like, and he said he didn't want to have a management job. Again, he's just a wrestler. He doesn't think he'll ever have a management job again while he's a wrestler, because he didn't feel he was mature enough for that role over at AEW. And look, you all listen to the show. You know me. I'm not always easy on Cody when it comes to talking about Cody's reaction and interaction with the fans, things that Cody says, the ways that Cody acts, things I hear about backstage behavior. But whatever. This guy showed to me, and I'm just being straight here, I'm not trying to blow smoke up anybody's ass. In that scrum, he clearly gave me the indication that this is going to be a fresh start, right? He's going to keep his head out of the politics and the backstage drama, it sounds like, focus what's going on in the ring, and I hope to God he has somebody that is proofing his promos before he goes out and speaks, because Cody's great on the mic, and he's a very good character, but when he's allowed to write his own words, he can sometimes put his foot in his mouth. So with a governor on him, more money, he's got a bus, his family can travel around with him. He's a more mature individual now, it sounds like. I am optimistic on Cody's chances in WWE.
His goal is very different right now. It's to go out there and cement his legacy, cement the Rhodes legacy, and win the big one. And I think he's got a good shot at it after Saturday night. But let's also keep in mind, too, 6 years ago, the indie scene is not what it is right now. AEW didn't exist. The Young Bucks, All In, all that stuff didn't happen. So I think his goal was to go out. He said this, I think, on this during the Scrum Sunday. Go out there, rejuvenate the market, come back. And I think he's solely focused on doing what he did Saturday. I think that's where Cody needs to be. And I think he's much more interesting with that persona.
All right. Well, we'll real quickly dive into the mailbag here. We have gone way over time, but at Wink Daily, WINC Daily, that's the account to follow if you want to vote in our daily poll. Simple question. What was the match of the weekend at WrestleMania? Over 1,000 votes in the last hour. A lot of people had opinions. 2-1, 66.6% match of WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. 13.3 went to other, which, by the way, was entirely write-in votes for Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. We had one for McAfee. Thank you, Dino. But, yeah, it was a blowout. People angry at me for not including that in the matches. I had the audacity to put Edge and Styles and Sami Zayn and Knoxville as people. But, look, I think what that shows is how great that Lynch-Belair match was, how much it resonated with people, because you have people taking the time to physically write that out on their keyboard and tell me how very wrong and stupid I am. Sure. And that is, hey, tell me. I don't give a shit. Yeah. Tell me. I think it really goes to show how great that match really was. And I'm very happy to see all the write-in votes and the love and the fervor, because it does deserve it flowers. It was an absolutely great match. You know what I mean?
It's a long-term story, too. I think I sided with the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins thing here. I think we're splitting hairs at this point because they're both fantastic. But I think that women's match, the story of Bianca, a year later after her big win last year, the SummerSlam story got paid off on Saturday night as well. It was a really cool cap to the entire Bianca's rise to being a main event player for that women's division. I also did a poll this weekend, Nick. I sometimes do this to best WrestleMania wrestler. And I had 3 options: Pat McAfee, Logan Paul, or Dominic Mysterio.
Oh,
because Dominic's young, right? He's a young gun. Pat McAfee won my poll with 81% of the votes. Logan Paul got 18.2%. Nobody voted for Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, what a random thing to throw out there, Mike. Come on now. He was buried in a tag match. You look fine, whatever. I liked here, though, number 3, Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. That was in, look, again, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I was at the airport this morning in Dallas, drinking a Bloody Mary and eating a fried chicken sandwich, as I want to do. And I had my WrestleMania hoodie on that they gave me in the press box because it's nice and soft. And there was a group of people that were like drunk at like whatever noon that were all they were leaving WrestleMania. They're leaving Dallas WrestleMania. They saw my shirt. They're like, dude, WrestleMania! And I was like, oh, I'm so dead and tired. I'll engage you for a moment, but I want to sit quietly and eat my food right now. And they were like, what was your favorite match? And I go, dude, Sami Zayn, Johnny Knoxville. Everybody at the table was like, yes! Yes! greatest match ever. So, and dude, I'm not alone in this. I know that match really stole a lot of people's hearts, and it makes me happy that it's a top 3 in the vote getter. And dude, look, biggest WrestleMania match of all time, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. No write-ins, no votes, nothing. What a weird thing, man. Just what a weird way to just end that WrestleMania, you know?
Months of build for that, and it's unfortunate. But we had night 1. We had Stone Cold Steve Austin back. I hope we get more Austin coming out of this, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next in WWE, which is not something that I say super often. So I'm pumped. I'm super.
All right. Well, Rayanne here, he's demanding I bring up his comments, so we'll give Rayanne the last word here. Nick, Mike, answer me. Acknowledge me. WWE title, stadium show. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, head of the table, versus U.S. Nightmare AEW World Title, Chicago. I don't even know what you're saying here, Rayanne. I'm sorry. The last series of words is just a jumble about Punk and Joe. Is Cody Rhodes the next man to set up to Roman Reigns? It'll be interesting tonight. My gut says Braun Breaker will be the next one to step up to Roman Reigns, just as a fun little follow-up. Maybe we run back Brock Roman at Backlash, although I don't know. But Cody's teasing he's going to do some kind of talking segment tonight to declare his intentions. And that, to me, doesn't seem like a confrontation with Roman Reigns. I could be wrong. We'll see.
There's a long way to get to Cody Rhodes. He could win the Rumble next year. He could win it at SummerSlam. There's some places to go with this, but I would love to see Cody Rhodes be the guy that conquers Roman Reigns. It feels kind of right, doesn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. All right. Hey, we're going to wrap it up there for today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Michael, thank you for jumping in here with me as I am just fried and died. It has been a long 100+ hours in Dallas. Again, thank you to everybody. I have so many positive memories of hanging out with my press friends and meeting so many great fans and hanging out with fans and just getting to enjoy shows. And I want to thank everybody. I'll do tweets and stuff, I'm sure, throughout the week with photos and things like that. But it was really, really positive, and I'm looking forward to what the rest of the week holds as we're going to kind of digest it and talk more about it and see what the fallout is. Tomorrow, I'll be back. I'll be joined by Issa, who I spent a lot of time with in Dallas. We spent the time with the tailgate together. She got some great photos. You guys are going to get to hear what it's like to be trained, Mike, when I have somebody that's never been out in the field with me, and I'm trying to teach them how I like things done. Sure. So, Issa, she learned to get in the action, get close, and not be afraid, and you can hear all about it tomorrow. And so me and Issa will talk about Dallas tomorrow and more news and more Raw. I'm going to continue to roll out audio. What better way to follow up Cody Rhodes Media Scrum? Let's flip it, guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to air Tony Khan's ROH Supercard Scrum. It's another about hour banger. A lot of ground covered. So we're going to go from Cody to TK tomorrow. It's definitely something to come back. All of the scrums, all the interviews, if you don't want to wait to hear them rolled out here on the daily, they're all up on YouTube. I've thanked everybody that was there, but definitely want to thank the team, of course, here at Wrestling Inc. too. My Matthews, Eric, Marco, Dakota, Danny, there's names I'm definitely forgetting right now. Owen, the whole team at Wrestling Inc. I was sending constantly video and audio back to be cleaned up and put over on our YouTube channel so we could get it out before other people could. And it was done really, really well. And you all should be really proud of your support for the site, because I think this was the best coverage we've ever done for WrestleMania. I was very, very happy with it. So come on back tomorrow for all of that. Support Wrestling Daily on iTunes or wherever you want. SupportWrestlingInc.com. And, of course, come back here tonight after Raw. The Wrestling Inc. podcast going to digest whatever Cody and everybody else has to do here tonight. It's going to be a fun show, and support them as well. Michael, anything you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
Pro wrestling is great, baby. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at The Real Wiseman. Let's talk a little bit more.
Absolutely, everybody. I'm at Nick_Hausman. Thank you all so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.